This is KGCI Real Estate On Air Live, your weekly deep dive into the strategies, trends, and tools shaping the real estate industry. From market updates to actionable strategies and exclusive interviews with top agents, we are here to unlock your full potential and help you thrive. Thousands of agents trust KGCI every week. Now it's your turn. Let's go live. Here's Ian Wheatley.
Hey, good morning. Imagine 100 plus transactions a year in 3 major markets, all as a solo agent. No, it's not a team. That's Chandra Vennapusa. You might be thinking, sure, but he's probably running some huge back-end system or dropping 6 figures on ads every year. Nope. Chandra has built his business on relationships, repeat business, and a workflow so simple it'll make any tech stack look bloated. Today on KGCI Real Estate On Air Live, we are sitting down with the top producing solo agent at eXp Realty and pulling back the curtain on how he's doing over $100 million a year in volume without burning out, without building a mega team, or chasing any shiny objects. How he's using the MLS as a CRM, why WhatsApp is his highest converting platform, and how emotional connection, not automation, is his unfair advantage. Plus, got a fresh batch of real estate confessions thanks to you, and we got those top 5 takeaways from an agent who's outproducing entire brokerages. But before that, inventory may be creeping higher, but buyer activity is still treading some water. So what's the real signal in a market as we close out the quarter? We're going to find out. It's time for Housing Headlines right here on Real Estate On Air Live. I'm Ian Wheatley. Existing home sales have ticked up, according to the latest report from the National Association of Realtors, up 1.5% month over month in September to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 4.06 million. Now, inventory increased slightly, up 1.3% from August, which translates now to basically 4.5 months of supply. Meantime, the median sales price rose 2.1% year over year to $415,000, a touch above that. But more importantly, that marks 27 consecutive months of year-over-year price gain. So agents, why this matters? The uptick in closing means that buyer activity is not completely stalled out, even with that rate pressure, and inventory is creeping up too, and that's potential leverage for motivated sellers or negotiating buyers. Also worth noting, the pending sales were flat in September, so no change in September from August. Regionally, though, the Midwest did see a dip while the South and Northeast held firm, and this matters because contract signings aren't improving, which does signal some caution, right? Either buyer hesitation or deal flow holds steady but isn't quite accelerating. So for agents here, keep pipeline, keep that fresh, keep it focused, and make sure that you're having those conversations about pre-approvals with those motivated buyers. Now, there's also promising numbers from the Mortgage Bankers Association to go along with this, as mortgage payment burdens have eased slightly. So the MBA's Purchase Applications Payment Index dropped to 155 in September. That is down from 157.5 in August, which means slightly better affordability. And that median monthly payment applied for purchase applications is down $33 from the prior month. So incremental gains, and this matters because even with interest rate headwinds, affordability is inching in the right direction slowly but surely. So for your buyers, that's a talking point. But it's still sensitive, right? That rate sensitivity. And for sellers, it means more competition may be lurking right around the corner. Also, mortgage applications did surge last week. The Mortgage Bankers Association weekly survey shows that mortgage applications increased in that latest period, including purchases and refi activity. So when applications rise, it can reflect some rate relief, some optimism, or buyers stepping back in. So agents, this is a market stirring indicator. So keep the conversation alive with those leads and with those past clients. And as we're kind of checking around to Mortgage Daily News or Mortgage News Daily, Bankrate, some others, right? That 30-year fixed rate sitting between 6.25% and 6 1/3. So check with your local and regional lenders in your area to see if their rates are better or worse than those national averages. From what I'm seeing better than that in most parts here in the Northeast, and more specifically here in upstate New York. Also keep an eye on that government shutdown pressure as it's leaving stranded buyers and vulnerable sellers. Right, there is an article from NAR magazine that outlines how the U.S. federal government shutdown is adding new stress. And the longer the shutdown goes, the worse the stress gets, as some buyers can't get key sign-offs and some owners are facing increased exposure in a slower transaction environment. And this matters because it's about our internal process, right? The internal process delays mean that these deals are dragging. And for us agents, we need to anticipate and communicate those delays effectively, make sure those client expectations are set properly, and you check for other clients that are needing help where the bureaucracy is stalled. We also had an update on the home turnover rate. That's hit a near 30-year low. Newsweek reporting that the rate at which homeowners move, that turnover rate, has hit its lowest level in 30 years. And this matters because less movement means fewer listings, which tightens up supply. So for agents, sellers are staying put. Build your listing pipeline early and prepare for scarcity in inventory to remain a challenge. So what is the real signal? Talking about rates, flat pending sales, and sluggish turnover probably has you saying that the market's dead until the rate dips below 6. But flat pending sales and sluggish turnover means that the game is changing, not completely over. So stay on the lookout for system delayed deals thanks to that shutdown. Remind your pipeline that payment burdens are easing and lean into sellers who've been talking about it, but still haven't moved. This is a moment of opportunity for them too. Hit that KGCI Real Estate On Air mobile app. Download this episode. Listen back to it later. Let's check your housing headlines here on Real Estate On Air Live. I'm Ian Wheatley. KGCI Real Estate On Air Live. I'm Ian Wheatley, and we are recovering a little bit from a week-long stay in Miami. Special thanks to eXp Realty for inviting us out last week for EXPCon there. Honored to be joined by the top-producing solo agent based on volume at eXp Realty, Chandra Vennapusa. Chandra, thanks for popping by to KGCI Real Estate On Air.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Ian, and thanks for inviting me to this session.
So, Chandra, I got to ask, how does one become the top producing solo agent at a brokerage?
I think first thing, you need to focus on your clients. That's the number one success anybody could have. Once you are successful with your clients, everything else will happen. I think customer obsession, working always what is most beneficial for the customer, will go a long way. I think in my perspective, once you do good things for your customer, everything else will come back to you. There are many circumstances where, you might find that it will be more beneficial for you than the customer, but always prioritize your customer.
Now, I got to ask, how long have you been a licensed real estate agent for?
For more than 8 years now, Ian. I started 2017, June.
And for how many of those years have you been a top producing agent?
But I joined EXP in February of 2021. And I think EXP started doing rankings from 2022 onwards. And I have been in top 3 realtors in the US since then. This is my 3rd year. I think it's 3rd year for EXP also doing the rankings. And I have been consistently, I think I'm the only realtor right now who has been in top 3 realtors in the US consistently since they have started the rankings.
You are correct in that assumption, sir. This is one of those things, right? Because you are coming at this more as a CEO than a solo agent, I have to assume. So when you're looking at this as a top level CEO, running this, not a team, but you're a solo agent, what kind of infrastructure do you have around you? Is it VAs? Is it showing assistants? Is it listing assistants? Is it all of the above? What does that structure look like?
Yeah, you are spot on. I mean, we are not, I don't think you can be successful just as a person, right? So you need a village behind you to make this happen. For example, last year we did about 101 million sales volume, right? That translates into about 99 or 100 transactions. So if we have to serve 100 closings. Of course, you would have been working on 200 more customers. They may not have closed. So you're looking at anywhere from 200 to 300 customers that you're serving in a year, right? It takes a village. And the way we are structured right now is I do have a full-time assistant that helps me with all the documentation and processing and offers and listings and everything else. And I do have a full-time assistant to help with showings. And I do have a lot of people. I do serve three different markets. I'm in Washington, the whole Washington area, and then I have business in Austin as well as Dallas. So I have teams in Washington, I have team in Austin, I have team in Dallas. Basically, team of realtors that help me with multiple showings and taking care of our customers and all of that. So if I have to tell you, probably I'm working with about 60 or 70 realtors across the three different cities. So it's a village. It's like running your own business with a lot of different people and taking help from different people, and you have to work with all of those people to make it happen.
And I'm thinking about this through, I mean, you're working with 60 some odd agents across three different markets.
Correct.
Are those agents that in effect belong with you on a team and you're serving as a team leader? Or are these agents that you are bringing in on like an hourly basis to show a house or to present a listing package?
Yeah.
Which one, or combination of those two?
Yeah. So excellent question. So I have two people that help me full time. They are part of my company, and we have like salaried employees, right? Apart from that, all these agents that I'm talking about are paid hourly or per showing, depending on how things work. And I also have a lot of realtors that help me with open houses as well in all these three different cities. So most of them are paid by hour or per showing or per open house.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what does your business look like behind the scenes? Or do we have departments? Do we have systems? And what metrics are we looking to measure either or both?
Yeah. So I always like to structure my business based on my customers' needs. Like, what are the customers looking for, right? I think the systems that I use on a daily basis. Obviously, the number one system that I use is MLS. Because I have most of my customers in MLS, and I track what they're looking, who is actively checking, what is happening behind the scenes. Are they in the market or out of the market? I get a lot of data from MLS, right? So that's one thing that I do on a daily basis. That's one system that I use. And the other system that I have is a lot of my customers use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like the most popular tool, I would say, communication tool that my customers use. Again, I always work backwards for my customers, and my customers use WhatsApp, right? So understanding your customers is very important in our business, right? So every region has different types of customers, and we have to cater to different one of them. But WhatsApp is definitely one way of tracking. People send messages, and I have lots of groups and communications with those groups, and keeping up with what they need. That's one system that I definitely use. And we also have Bold Trail. We didn't have this CRM system before, but Bold Trail is something that we set up recently, and we're starting to use that CRM system. So that's one area where I check on a daily basis. In terms of the workflow and processes, of course, all the completed transactions go into SkySlope, right? So the systems that I just talked about are, whether it is MLS or, WhatsApp, Bold Trail, all of these are before you complete a contract, right? So you're tracking those leads, you're following up with those leads, and you're following up with those customers that are starting to work with you. That's before the contract. But then once you get into the contract, we load into SkySlope. We use SkySlope to track the whole transaction process, right from getting into contract all the way through closing. So that's the workflow we follow for once you get into contract.
So you're under contract now. I'm assuming you have transaction coordinators in each of these three markets that are kind of overseeing that whole process, correct?
Correct.
Got
Correct.
it.
So I have luckily I have a, full-time assistant who is licensed in both Washington and Texas. So I have one person to deal with all of this. Yeah.
That's helpful.
I definitely got lucky there. Yeah.
That's super helpful. We're checking in with Chandra Vennapusa. He is the top producing U.S. based EXP Realty agent based on volume. Thinking about this also from where does most of the return on your investment come from? Is it coming from outbound? Is it coming from outbound marketing? Is it coming from referrals? Is it just coming from having such an efficient system that everybody keeps coming back? What's that most profitable return on investment for you in your business?
Yeah. The number one return on investment is the time you spend with your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the biggest strength I have is maintaining those relationships with my past customers and keeping up with all of those relationships. And I always look at building sustainable processes. What I meant by sustainable processes is that I'm not looking at right now. For example, in the first year, we did 60 transactions, which is a little bit unusual for a new agent to do 60 transactions. So I always thought about, let's say if I grow to 1,000 customers or 2,000 customers, now we crossed like 1,000 plus transactions in the last 8 years. So I always thought about how do I maintain those relationships? I can't keep doing like mails, direct mails and stuff like it's not sustainable. You can't keep sending direct mails to 1,000 plus customers all the time and keep in touch with them. So I have processes where I maintain those relationships, and I think that's where I get a lot of those referrals back. Of course, there are all these other things that they are add-ons in my perspective, and the most amount of business we get is from existing customers. But it's not so much that we have those customers in place. It's just that we maintain those relationships. And I recently did one experiment. I'll talk to you about that experiment. So I went back and for like 7 or 8 days I met about 110 of my customers. Okay. And I reached back to them to understand these are customers that I have served in the last 8 years, right? I was trying to understand if they are still doing business with us or if they have shifted, right? So I reached out to each one of them and I met, and most of them, they are in the same house that we have sold for them, or they have already done a transaction to close their home and bought some other home. Yeah. So what they told me is that we are doing a really good job at maintaining those relationships. So I became very confident that, hey, those customers will still come back to us for the next transaction and for the next transaction. And many of these clients, they have referred at least 10 to 15 closed transactions. That's fabulous. Like they're referring more than 10 to 15 of their friends and colleagues, and we closed deals with them. So that's the kind of relationships we have maintained with our customers.
Having those kinds of results, right? Because if you're looking at across the United States, right, basically 8 out of 10 buyers or sellers typically use a different agent than the agent they close that transaction with, right? And it's much higher than that actually, right? It's closer to like 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Walk me through. You get somebody closed on a house. What does that outreach system that's actually sustainable, what does that actually look like to keep those past clients engaged?
Fabulous question. That is the biggest challenge we all have. I think, because you're working so hard on new clients and closing contracts, how do you maintain those relationships with existing customers, right? So I always try to analyze what are the easiest ways for us to keep in touch with them. So, Facebook has been a really good medium for me because a lot of my customers, initially when I closed transactions, they were all on Facebook. Yeah. And so every day I spend time to send birthday wishes to them because in Facebook you get reminders for birthdays, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, remember everybody's birthday, right? You wouldn't know what their birthday is also, right? But Facebook sends these reminders, right? So you spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes every day to send birthday wishes to them, right? You are in front of them all the time, right? People love those wishes, right? So that somebody is remembering you and sending those wishes. Yeah. And we also have client WhatsApp groups. And whenever we close a home, because my clients are really good at WhatsApp, so I send those links to them, and they, many of them join. And
Uh-huh.
I give market updates. I give them, of course, some marketing as well. Like, oh, I got this client review. We closed on this home, and I also that is also a really good tool for my new customers, because I send listing updates and all of those in those WhatsApp groups, and it's very sustainable, right?
Right. And what's interesting is because what you've done, right? Because agents intuitively want to do the just listed, just sold Facebook and Instagram posts
Yeah.
that get precisely this much traction, right? But what you're doing is you're still doing that same message. You're just doing it in a private group text, right? In this private group, not unlike as if this was a Facebook group, a closed Facebook group or something like that. You're still making sure that they're getting that information that, number one, I'm still in business and I'm still doing it at a high level, right? But you're not tanking a social media algorithm with content that isn't going to move that needle. That's very smart. That's very smart.
And also, people may not look at their Facebook, may not look at Instagram. People
Mhm.
do look at their text messages.
They do. They have a knack for do that. Is there a point where it's too much, right? If you're noticing, is there such a thing as texting these past clients too much with this information?
Yeah, so there is always trade-off, Ian. There is no perfect medium on how you communicate. So, if you look at all the algorithms, it says you have to post daily to
Right.
keep engagement, right? On the
Right.
flip side, if you keep doing every day, I mean, sometimes you lose traction, right? There are clients that will leave your groups. It happens, right?
Mhm.
People who join, I mean, these are not just my clients, right? So there are people who join, the links are sent to other people, they join.
Mhm.
And obviously, I'm trying to provide market updates, a lot of useful information. I think you can't just, you have to balance things out. You can't just keep marketing about yourself. People will be too bored, right? What is the value they are getting out of these groups, right? So they should be getting something out of it. Yeah. That something is, market updates and how the trends are happening. And I also share a lot of information about how the interest rates are trending and how to be smart about their real estate investments. Okay. And what kind of, tax benefits they get with real estate. There is a lot of education that is also happening in these groups. It's not just, marketing.
And what is interesting in that, right, is because this is the information that agents used to put on social media that would gain traction, right? You're still doing that. You're still providing that information. You're still providing all that value, but you're doing it in a way that is kind of meeting those customers and clients exactly where they are. Um, what's one system or one process that gives you the most leverage that you use as the CEO of all of this on a weekly basis?
Yeah. So this one system, again, I'll go back to MLS because I put all of my customers into MLS system. And MLS has a lot of data. I don't think a lot of realtors realize how much data you can get out of MLS. Not just from a customer perspective. You can see, the customer is checking the homes. You can see when they checked it. Are they actively looking at it? Whether the homes are being sent to them. Um, Even from a listings perspective, you can look at which agents are sending your listing to their clients and how you can do follow-ups. There is a lot of data. Yeah, I think that's one system that I use very constantly, and of course, WhatsApp, as I mentioned, those are the two ones.
What's interesting is you are the top producing US EXP Realty agent by volume. And you told You weren't telling me about the CRM that you were using and all the tools that it was leveraged. You're using the MLS
Yeah.
that every agent can use, that every agent has access to, that if every agent leveraged the MLS to its maximum capacity, they would have all of this same data. Why did you go the MLS route as opposed to some high powered, massive CRM with all of the whiz bangs and tools?
Yeah. So to be honest, I didn't have a CRM system. Uh,
Mhm.
I was, I think, I wouldn't say I was too busy, but I think I always had leads coming through the systems that I already had. It
Right.
doesn't mean that I should not be using CRM. I started setting up Bold Trail in the last 3 4 months. My assistant has been working on it. So we are yet to leverage the CRM system, to be honest. But I think what I realized is that the leads that you already have, if you are able to convert them into contract, I think that's easier leverage than the amount of time you have to spend to get new leads, right? I don't remove any of those customers, whether they bought with me or not bought, buy the home with me or didn't do a transaction. All of them are in my MLS.
Mm.
So I keep tracking them and reaching back to them, once in a while and keep in touch with them. And I was very successful at it. It's just that I get conversion. My conversion ratio is very high.
Mhm.
That's why I stick with that systems. And I
Sure.
know that's where I'm getting my leads.
Now, if you had to teach a solo agent MBA, you had the full, you had the whole curriculum. What's class number one all about?
Sorry, you cut off a bit, Ian. Can you come back again?
Sorry. If you were teaching a solo agent
Uh,
MBA
mhm.
course, right?
Yeah.
What would the first class be about?
About customer obsession.
Customer obsession.
Customer obsession. I think if you nail that down, how you can take care of your customer, I think that will do wonders for you. I'll tell you one of the biggest things a lot of us miss. I was just talking about this in the panel as well for solo realtors as part of EXPCon. For example, if you are negotiating for a customer and you spend like 3 days, 4 days negotiating, yeah, how many agents go back and keep their clients updated on the kind of work that you're doing to negotiate for them?
Mm.
Many of them, they don't communicate. What
Mhm.
happens is that the client doesn't know what is the amount of effort you're putting and what are the strategies that you're using to negotiate. Yeah. Even at, let's say, after 3 or 4 days, even if you're not able to negotiate even a single penny, but then the effort and the process that you went through, if you're able to communicate with your customer properly, that is a big win. So customer obsession, I would say, is the number one thing that I would, talk about, on how to communicate, how to take care of your customers, how to make sure that they feel. It's not about always winning, right? You may not negotiate at all, but you still win from a customer's perspective because they know that you have put the effort. They know that you are extremely talented, knowledgeable, and you are doing all kinds of strategies to help them. What goes through the process is more important than the end result.
Thinking about that customer experience and being customer obsessed, what what was the one part of that obsession that your business couldn't thrive without?
Um, I think the emotional connection
Mm.
with our customer, I think, I don't think we can thrive without that. Yeah, it's a transaction. You go through them, you help them. All of that is great, but that emotional connection and bonding that you make with your customer goes a very long way, very long way. So, for example, when the closing happens, I call my clients and I genuinely care about them. The messaging that I do, I'm pretty sure it will stand with them for many, many months, even if I don't connect with them for many months. So that emotional connection and the deep relationship that you do, I think that stands out. I don't think we can run our business without it. I think that's what is very important.
Mhm. And you've built a whole business around it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Chandra Vennapusa, you have been super insightful. Thank you for being obsessed with customers and clients, and thanks for showing us the way here on KGCI Real Estate On Air.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Ian, and thanks for inviting me. And absolutely loved this conversation.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I need a moment to marinate on that simple yet mind-boggling conversation with eXp Realty's top producing solo agent, Chandra Vennapusa, that you just heard right here on KGCI Real Estate On Air Live. I'm going to give you my top 5 takeaways in about a minute. But first, the future of listings is not a slideshow. If your listing strategy still starts with iPhone pics and ends with an MLS upload, you're already behind. This Friday, we're breaking down what's actually working as we're heading into 2026. AI-powered listing videos, virtual staging that converts, and the no-brainer upgrades that gets homes sold faster. This isn't theory. This is your next listing presentation. Tune into the Friday Focus, the future of listing, streaming all day Friday following the big agent meeting right here on KGCI Real Estate On Air. Inside of that always free Real Estate On Air mobile app for iPhone and Android, just search KGCI in the App Store or Google Play. All right. I had some takeaways. I'm going to narrow it down to 5, but forgive me, they're a little less punchy than normal because remember, everything I do right here on Real Estate On Air Live, I do it for you. At number 1, Chandra is a solo agent with CEO systems, right? He may be that solo agent, but he's running this multi-market machine. 3 cities, 60 plus showings and open house agents, 2 full-time salaried staff. And he's structured like a CEO with clear delegation, workflows, and high leverage. At number 2, the MLS is Chandra's CRM. He does not rely on a fancy tech stack. Instead, he has maxed out what the MLS can do, right? To tracking buyer behavior, spotting engagement trends, following up with every contact, even those non-closers, right? So a reminder for all of us, right? The best system is the one you actually use, high-powered CRM or not. Number 3, WhatsApp is what he's using for real retention. Not Instagram, not Facebook, not YouTube, right? He's using private WhatsApp groups to deliver market updates, just closed and client wins, real estate education from tax tips to rates to trends. And this creates a high-trust channel that is way more impactful than social media posts that disappear in 3 seconds. At number 4, his ROI is coming from relationships, not an ad spend, right? Most of his 1,000 plus clients stay with him and they may refer him 10 plus deals, right? And his secret is those birthday wishes on Facebook, those post-closing check-ins that are about them, not him, and that deep emotional connection, because you can't automate trust, but you can scale it with intention. And at number 5, the first class in his solo agent MBA is all about customer obsession. Forget the scripts, forget the split tests. Chandra is leading with care. And even if you don't save those customers or clients $1, if they feel your effort, that's the win. It's not about the negotiation wins. It's about feeling seen, it's about feeling served, and it's about feeling supported. Those are my top 5 takeaways from that conversation with eXp Realty's top producing solo agent, Chandra Vennapusa. You heard right here exclusively on Real Estate On Air Live. All right. This Friday, the listing game's changed. AI video, virtual walkthroughs, cinematic drone shots that seem luxury, even if that kitchen's dated, okay? If your listings don't stand out, they sit. And on this week's Friday Focus, we are unpacking the future of how agents are marketing and winning listings heading into 2026. Don't show up late to it. Catch this week's Friday Focus live on realestateonair.fm, inside the always free Real Estate On Air mobile app for iPhone and Android, or same day, next day on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and now YouTube and YouTube Music. It's time to lighten things up now. It's time for Real Estate Confessions. These are your stories from the wild world of real estate. Send us a DM. Tell us about the tragedy that happened, because comedy is simply tragedy plus time. But before we dive in, we got to get one thing straight.
Real Estate Confessions features stories from the wild world of real estate. Names and details may have been changed to protect the innocent, and occasionally the not-so-innocent. All confessions are shared in good humor and do not reflect the opinions of KGCI Real Estate On Air, its hosts, or affiliates. No agent's licenses were harmed in the making of this segment. Enjoy responsibly.
All right, here we go. It's time for Real Estate Confessions, because in real estate, truth is stranger than fiction.
Sent a thinking of you text. Meant it for a buyer. Sent it to my ex. Now they think I want to reconnect. Honestly, might be easier than following up on that pre-approval.
Client asked if the neighborhood was safe. Just then, I was chased by a goose. They still bought the house. They just call it the Goose Street now.
Had to crawl under a deck to reset a GFCI outlet. Listing photos looked luxury. Inspection felt like Fear Factor.
Gave a buyer space to think during a showing. Found them 20 minutes later napping on the staging furniture. They said they were manifesting. They did not write an offer.
All right, the goose chase, the GFCI crawl, and the thinking of you text to your ex. That just another week in this wild world of real estate. If you have a real estate confession of your own, the awkward, the unhinged, the one you swore you'd never tell your broker about, we want to hear it. DM us the word confess on Instagram or Facebook. Just search KGCI. Names and details will be changed. I'm here to protect the dignity of the brave that share. Replay today's episode and grab that Friday Focus inside of the always free Real Estate On Air mobile app for iPhone and Android. Special shout out to those of you watching on YouTube right now, and of course, those OGs that are over at realestateonair.fm. I'm Ian Wheatley. This is Real Estate On Air Live. Be good.